All right, today we're going to talk about why a lot of startups miss the hiring plan for their sales teams, why you might have missed the hiring plan, and obviously that's really bad in terms of hitting our revenue numbers. So I'm going to walk you through just some of the calculations, some of the ways to think about this as you look to grow your software startup. Really what it comes down to is just a harsh reality. The number of salespeople that you need to hire, it's going to be far higher than you think. So we're going to take an example of a hypothetical sales team that is doubling in size from 20 to 40 reps in a year. And for the sake of this exercise, we are going to assume that the sales team is consisted of 50% SDRs and 50% account executives. This is actually quite a complicated video just in terms of things that you need to think about. So I've tried to simplify where possible. The first thing that we need to think about in terms of asking the question of how many people do we need to hire, we need to work out an answer to the question of how long does someone stay once they've joined your team. The answer is for an SDR, like the attrition rate on an SDR team is greater than 100% per year. And the reason for this is you can expect an SDR to stay as an SDR at a startup for about a year. Now, you can extend this a little bit, maybe to 14 months, maybe to 15 months. But if you go much beyond this, there is a very high chance that they are going to leave your company for greener pastures, because the first thing that any SDR does as soon as they get that job, oh, yes, I'm over the moon. I'm so excited to be an SDR. Now I'm thinking about being an account executive. Now, the good news is that a lot of our SDRs don't actually leave. And we're going to talk about SDR turnover and we'll talk about account executive turnover. But the good news is that compared to account executives, they turn over at much lower rates. Rather, they churn from the SDR team and they go into other roles within the company. So I pulled some numbers of all of the hires that I have made across a variety of clients, going back about 6 or 7 years. And all of this data is more than 2 years old in terms of these people were placed more than 2 years ago. But there are a few things that I will say. I was conservative in terms of saying full years, right? So if someone was there for less than a year, they are counted as 0, right? If someone was there for a year and 11 months, they are counted in 1. 2 years, 11 months, again, counted as 2. Now, not everyone has had the opportunity to elapse through these later stage years. But as you can see, we do have pretty high turnover, right? 45% of the people we have on day one are going to be with us, 2 years down the line. If we look at account executive turnover, actually the numbers are worse, right? So, and at every level, right? So if we can expect 4 out of 5 SDRs to be with us in a year from now, we can expect, 7 out of 10, 3.5 out of 5 account executives to be with us. 45% of account executives make it to, 45% of SDRs make it to that second year anniversary. 37% make it to that second year anniversary. So just something to think about, right? A lot of the time, SDRs do become account executives. Now, they also become other things like marketing folks. They get into recruiting. They join the product team. They go and become SDR leaders themselves. The way I think about an SDR program and why I don't believe that the SDR role is dead is I really think of it as the equivalent of a rotational graduate program. Something that a lot of bigger companies do, with the exception that SDRs actually provide real value during their first year. And I think they really, really start to provide value if you can retain them, if you can promote them into your sales team. So we're going to start with 10. Right? But unfortunately, they're all going to need to be backfilled because we're going to lose 2 and then we're going to promote 8. Now, here's how this looks in a table form. So we're going to start with 10. We're going to have to start afresh in the second year. Sorry, if we look down here. And then we're going to have to start again at the start of the new year, right? But if we look at this, okay, we're going to hire 10. 2 of them aren't going to work out. 6 of them are going to be promoted into an account executive role, and then 2 are going to be promoted somewhere else into the company, which is fine and dandy, but we don't really care about that. You're going to see how this is really powerful when we talk about growing the account executive team. As you can see, this never ends. This is why sales leaders spend so much time interviewing candidates, because you simply need a continual pipeline of talent. Now, let's talk about account executive attrition. I already gave you the scary numbers, but we do have a bit of a saving grace here. They're not subject to the same up or out trajectory as an SDR, right? So we don't need to move them into another role in a year. In some ways, it's actually the opposite, right? You can keep an account executive very happy by giving them a territory and giving them enough time to really see the fruits of their labor. However, this does not mean that they will stay around forever. So we're going to run a scenario where we start with an account executive team of 10, and we're going to grow it to 20 reps in that second year. And then same thing with the SDR team, where we keep it steady at 20. We're all tired of hiring. We're going to look at that. But we're going to look at a few assumptions, right? The first one, and this is a really scary one. If we look at the gap between year 1 and year 2, we lose 50% of the account executive team. Now, that might be a combination of performance. That might be a combination of being poached by a very hot market, but we need to expect fairly high attrition in that second year. Look, these numbers, they're not great. I actually think they're a lot better than the average across the industry, because the clients that I work with don't really do a lot of layoffs. But if we think about what's happened over the last 5 or 6 years, we had COVID, which was a very unstable time. We then had a really hot hiring market where a lot of people left, and then we had a real cool off, right, where there were a lot of layoffs as well. I think we need to expect instability going forward. You are better off being more conservative than less conservative when thinking about how many people you need to hire, because the whole point of this exercise is asking yourself, how many recruiting cycles do you need to do? How much time do you actually need to allocate to interviewing? And the bad news is it's probably a lot more than you think. So let's get back down into this. We are going to make a few other assumptions, right? So we're going to say 75% of the SDRs that have been at your company for a year are promoted into account executive roles. And again, we kind of built this out here where, we had these 10 SDRs and we're going to promote 6 of them, right? 75% of the 8 who are still there into the account executive role, right? In that second year, we're going to promote 75% of them, in this case, 12 of them, into an account executive role. It's lovely that we're helping other departments, but we don't really care about that for the purpose of this exercise. Now, we are going to assume that 100% of the SDRs that you promote into account executive roles make it to their first year as an account executive. And this is actually a number I'm pretty confident with. As I said, like SDRs do tend to stick around so much longer than account executives, just in terms of, the point in their career that you catch them at. And often those SDRs do go on to do very, very well as account executives. Actually, if you look at, kind of once we get into the 4 and 5 year, time frame, these people do stick around. The next thing we're going to say is that 25% of the account executives that we don't hire from the SDR team, rather that we hire externally, we're going to say that they don't make it to their first year anniversary, right? And again, if we look here, we're looking at about a 29% attrition rate. I think we can do slightly better than that. But what does this mean? Okay, so we had 10 account executives, but due to attrition, we're going to lose 5 of them. But the good news, right, is we have 8 SDRs that we can promote from. So we promote 6 of them, right? So to grow our team from 10 to 20, we need to hire 9 new people as account executives before we account for anyone working out in the first year. Now, if we assume that 3 out of 4 of our account executives are going to succeed, we need to hire 12 reps, right? So to grow from 10 to 20 account executives, we need to hire 18 reps. The good news is 6 of them are going to come through our SDR team. Now let's look at our second year, right? So we've got an account executive team goal of 20. We're so tired of recruiting. We know that we need to feed the SDR team another 20, people to join it. But we really, really don't want to do any more account executive hiring. Well, the good news is we have 20 people on our existing team, but we lose 10 of them, right? We might even lose them to other departments. We lose some of them to poach, some of them just don't work out, but we have this promotion from our internal team. So we actually end the year at 22, right? Our SDR team means that we can keep our account executive team stable, right? The way to think about this is, and the downside to that kind of approach where, you just turn off hiring for a full year, is that you end up with a very junior account executive team. But as I said, this is just the reality of hiring. This is the reality of the velocity at which you need to hire. Real attrition numbers are probably often higher than this. So the reason I say this is it's important that you run the numbers on your sales team. For the sake of accurately forecasting your recruiting needs, you need to think about every single candidate who has started on your team, right? That guy who disappeared on day 2 still took a recruiting cycle to get to that point. I'm going to close this out by telling you, B2B software companies, they need salespeople. They need a lot of them. You need a lot of, you just need a lot of candidates in the process to make these hires. If you'd like help, if you want to work with someone who understands the industries and a whole lot of just the nuance that goes with it, there is a Calendly link below. Click the link, book a time, and we can talk about, if Next Venture is the right kind of company to work with you. Either way, I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.